Alzheimer's. He developed Alzheimer's with psychosis. I was scared, and I know he was scared. So this threw Bill into a whole new reality. And when I started thinking about outings for Bill, I had to respect that new reality that this diagnosis threw him into. I learned quickly that a lot of the things that Dad enjoyed years before, he did not enjoy anymore. So who was I taking on these outings? It was not an elderly gentleman who forgot words now and then, might ask the same questions, might repeat himself. No, Dad was an elderly gentleman, but he also had developed anger, anxiety. He would become anxious, and he showed signs of paranoia. What was I going to consider for an outing? Well, safety first. And I had to be very cautious because Dad became very, very aware, heightened awareness of sounds, of temperature. He was always cold, and people moving about really agitated him. I had to watch out for falls. What was the terrain going to be like where we were going? Were there going to be obstacles? And I had to think about three things: stairs, elevators, and escalators. You know, years before, those wouldn't have been an issue, but those could have been very scary to Dad in his new reality. So why even go? Well, I had two goals in mind: fresh air and a change of scenery. Well, I soon learned if we were going to do that, spontaneous outings were out of the question. I always had to pre-plan, and I learned quickly that I was never going to be able to argue Dad or convince him into an outing. For some reason, folks, the word go really agitated Dad. I don't know if he thought that I was trying to drag him from his comfort area to someplace that was unknown. So I had to kind of change my verbiage with things like, oh, I need some fresh air, or hey, let's get a burger, anything to avoid that word go. And one thing I want to interject here, folks, don't hesitate to use pictures or gestures with your loved ones. I can tell you the less that Bill had to listen to my jabber, the better off we were all the way around. I had to learn that I had to limit my words. I like to talk, but with Bill, I had to learn to limit my words. The pictures and the gestures were wonderful because they were much less threatening to him than having to listen to me and try and process all of my jabber. Now, to clarify, oh, Bill heard fine. He had wonderful hearing, but when my words went into that hearing mechanism and made their way up to the brain, it didn't make any sense to him at all. It only seemed to agitate him. If you're going to use pictures, make sure you use real pictures, maybe of your church where you're going, to a restaurant, wherever. I never used cartoons or drawn pictures. Real pictures and photographs seem to work best with Bill. And make up your own gestures. You don't have to do formal sign language. Just something, again, that makes a little more sense, like, let's eat, brush your teeth, and make them up. Anything you do is fine. Well, how long would our visits be? Well, I always did less on an outing than I thought Bill could handle. If it went well, we added a little more the next time. If it didn't go well, so be it. I always anticipated what could go wrong, and believe me, that paid off. And we never went without four things: Bill's touring cap, his wallet, his doodle pad, and his mechanical pencil. Maybe that goes back to the accountant days, but it was so comforting to him. Not a pen and not a number 2 wooden pencil, a mechanical pencil. I had the market on mechanical pencils, believe me. When would we go? Mid-morning was best for Bill. He became very agitated and anxious mid-afternoon to late afternoon. And I promise you, had I tried to take him on an outing at that time, I would have brought home the equivalent of a 5-year-old on a sugar high who had not had a nap. So I definitely avoided that late afternoon time. Could have never calmed him down. So where did we go? Well, Bill left McDonald's, but we couldn't manage it anymore. The sounds, the temperature, the crowds, but we could drive through and we could take our McDonald's to the park. Sometimes we'd sit in the car, roll the windows down, watch the trees. Again, fresh air, change of scenery. If we were having a good day, we'd even venture out to one of the picnic benches, one of the picnic tables. And what I liked about the park, it provided an easy escape route to the car if we needed it. Much better than a McDonald's parking lot or a Walmart parking lot, much safer and much more accessible. I never had to beg Bill to go on a ride. He loved rides. He loved going around the LSU lakes. I kept him away from downtown and Essen Lane and College Drive. He loved the LSU lakes. He loved to look at houses. In fact, we had some of our best conversations on our rides. I would kind of say something like, what do you think of that greenhouse? Oh, well, well, that's stupid. I wonder why they chose that color. So we had some really good conversations, and it was a real fun time for him. The nursery. We would go to the nursery at a very, very quiet time. Bill never lost his love for plants, trees, flowers. So we would go through, again, fresh air, change of scenery, quiet. And we'd always bring something home, maybe a flower for the table or a plant that we could plant in his little plot out in the backyard. That was something that really, he just really, really enjoyed. I have to interject here. One of our caregivers, when I tell you creative, she and her loved one would visit cemeteries. Her loved one really enjoyed reading the markers, the dates, the names. Again, fresh air, change of scenery, very quiet. I have to say that was really creative. Now, Sanji is going to have a great list for all of you of the outings that you might consider. So if you have a loved one like Dad, who also has a psychosis diagnosis, you might listen to Sanji's outings and see how you might be able to adapt them to your loved one. And I want everybody to know, I have been there. You are never a failure. Trust your gut and trust your instincts. If it doesn't feel good to go, don't go. And I don't care if it's a family outing, if it's an appointment, all you have to say is, we are not having a good day. We are not having a good day. Your outings may have to be less frequent and they may have to be stopped at some time. And I did have to stop formal outings with Dad. He became very, very disoriented, very agitated, very anxious. So we had home outings. We would go to the screened-in porch with our McDonald's. He would have his doodle pad and his mechanical pencil, and we would eat while watching his beloved hummingbirds, the beautiful backyard, and it worked. So we had home outings. We could walk around the backyard, check out his flowers, because I knew that terrain and I knew that terrain was safe. And folks, sometimes I think sometimes we forget with our loved ones who also have the psychosis diagnosis. Silence can be an outing. If you think about the stimulation that our loved ones have to endure during the day, they get up, they get their medicine, they get their breakfast, they listen to the TV, the radio, voices, doors slamming, chairs going across floors, cars might be honking, there might be sirens. It can be overwhelming to them. Our brains need to rest and reset, and our loved ones' brains need to rest and reset. So feel comfortable in doing that, folks. And just remember, with our loved ones, silence can really be golden. Now, caregivers, your well-being is critical. You have to be comfortable no matter what is going on, outing, at home, anywhere. And please make sure you get out. Lunch with friends, coffee with your buddies. And I want to add right now, and please take note of this, here at Alzheimer's Services, we have a program called respite reimbursement. We can actually provide up to $100 a month for you to help with your sitter care. And the only requirement is we need a diagnosis of some form of dementia. And as I say, we can give you up to $100 a month to help with your sitter care. So if you're already having sitter care, or if you're considering sitter care, so you can get out and your loved one is safely at home with a sitter, please remember our respite reimbursement program. And I do that program, so just get a hold of me. All right, so folks, while you can, and I'll end with this, enjoy your outings with your loved ones, be creative, and cut yourself some slack if it doesn't always work out. And I heard this little quote one time. It said, you can't always count on a good outing, but you can sure hope for it. So folks, thanks for tuning in today. We really appreciate you.
Okay, I guess I'm up. All right. No, you're not the only one. Planning ahead will be the most successful tool. Hold on, y'all. You have to move it. Research your destination ahead of time. Pack a day bag with essentials. Dress appropriately for weather conditions. Offer a helping hand and build in plenty of time for breaks. Next slide. All right. So some things to consider when planning a day out. Where will you be taking your loved one? Park, library, store, short walk. The time you will be taking your loved one. And as Marcia said, the best time for Bill was afternoon, early afternoon. So plan around bathroom breaks and eating schedules and what time of day is the best time for your loved one. When, what day of the week is most comfortable for them? In the working world, that Monday is a tough day, but sometimes a Wednesday is a bad day for your loved one. You just never know. Whatever day is the best day for them, that would be a better day to plan a day out. Flexibility, key to everything. Flexibility, when you're going on an outing with a person with dementia, flexibility is key. Doing anything, flexibility is key. There's no way to gauge what their reactions, mood, or level of comfort will be. Hold on. Once you get going. So plan your day around the mental and physical capability of the person with dementia now, as opposed to how they once were. Again, back to Marcia, she was saying she knew that he couldn't do the things that he used to do. So therefore, she was flexible and just, adapted. All right, next slide. Things to consider when planning a day out. Considering physical and mental capability now. They may have always loved walking on the beach. This may be too physically taxing for them now. They may have liked hiking. That's, of course, probably too physically taxing now. They may have always loved going to the theater, but having to sit through a 2-hour movie may be too much to handle. Be prepared for medical or physical issues. Understand when they need to take their medications and if they need to take them with food or water. Make sure that you have those things, food, snacks, whatever, to be able to take care of that. Be aware of any dietary restrictions. A walker or wheelchair could be helpful if your loved one's not used to being out and about. Next slide. Packing your day bag. Pack a tote with essential things your loved one will appreciate. So one of the things, pack in your day bag, what to pack in the day bag. Snacks and water, emergency contact information. This may not seem important, but when you need it, this could be extremely important. Attach it to the inside of the clothing of your loved one in case you're separated. Up-to-date medical information, photocopies of legal documents, relevant medications, first aid supplies, Band-Aids, aspirin, etc., fan or personal cooler, change of batteries. This thing is in my way. Fully charged cell phone and cell phone charger. That's something we don't think of ahead of time, but that fully charged cell phone really helps. Incontinence briefs, wipes and tissues, magazines and books, weather-related accessories, umbrellas, sunscreen, sunglasses, hat, gloves, etc. Extra clothing, a soothing item for them to hold. Marcia said, his pen and his doodle pad, camera or cell phone to record the memories from reminiscing later. Though they may not be enjoying it right at that moment, when they look back on those pictures, a lot of times they recall it differently than we recall it. Next slide, please. Be prepared. So in addition to the day bag, think ahead as to what could make this outing go more smoothly. Waiting is challenging for a loved one with dementia. So this gives the opportunity for a person with dementia to become nervous or anxious. Having a ticket for your venue, pre-booked if possible to avoid long lines, money, cash, credit, debit card, map or GPS to avoid delays with traffic. Make sure that there's no wrecks on this route, take that alternate route. Next slide. Choosing dementia-friendly places. Movies that have a sensory sensitive showing. There are movie theaters in our area that actually offer a sensory time for showing. The lights aren't bright. The lights aren't dark. They still have light in the theater. So that's a sensory thing for some of them. They're scared of the dark or it starts to make them anxious. Restaurants that are not loud and bright. The park during the week when it's less crowded. The zoo during the week when it's less crowded. Sometimes the big crowds do tend to make them anxious. Next slide, please. Having your explanations prepared. Bystanders will naturally become uncomfortable and may stare when an adult displays strange behaviors like removing clothing or shouting inappropriately. Alzheimer's Services of the Capital Area will provide you with a downloadable and printable card that explains that your loved one is dealing with Alzheimer's. It's a discreet way of informing people and helps preserve your loved one's dignity. And as you can see, there's a card in the corner here. And Ellen's supposed to have that for y'all to download and print. Next slide. Stay calm. Harder than you think. Taking your loved one on an outing adds to the normal stress of caring for your loved one. And it's easy to get agitated. So if you feel your stress level rising, take 3 deep breaths, remind yourself you're doing the best you can do, and carry on calmly. You being calm is going to help calm them down as well. Next slide. So inform your loved one in advance. Some individuals with dementia do not respond well to sudden changes in their schedules. So take time to prepare them. Tell them when and where you're going. You probably have to tell them more than once. Tell your loved one what they can expect there. Tell them any information that will help them feel calmer and more in control. Next slide. Inform the people at your destination. This we probably don't think about as much as we should, but forewarned is forearmed. So explaining to the people at your destination that your loved one is dealing with dementia, your loved one may display this surprising behavior, and testing your loved one's memory agitates them. A lot of people will do that memory test when speaking to someone with dementia. You remember me? You remember when we did this? So it's kind of good to give them that heads up, like, don't test their memory. You know, that just, it's embarrassing to them. They don't remember. So don't do the memory test. It's good to notify people in advance of that and provide them with pointers for what they should and should not do. All right, next slide. Comfortable dress. The physical comfort of your loved one makes a big difference to their behavior. Dress your loved one in appropriate and comfortable clothing and shoes to lower the chance of outbursts. We know this with babies as well. If they got a scratchy little shirt on, they're agitated and they're going to be grumpy. I will too. And so will our loved one. Wearing proper shoes can also help your loved one to avoid potential falls. What to consider? The destination, the time of year, whether it's summer or winter. Summer, on warmer days, comfortable, loose-fitting clothes along with a hat if you're going to be in the sun. On colder days in the winter, insulating, waterproof layers of clothes, coat, jacket, gloves, mittens, a warm hat, comfortable shoes, and a walker or cane if needed. Sometimes our loved ones don't necessarily walk with a walker or a cane, but sometimes it's helpful when we're out and decide that will be of assistance to them. All right, next slide. Have realistic expectations. You may have an idea in your head about how this outing will go, but understand that the best laid plans do not always go as expected. Even with everything perfectly planned, unexpected things can and will happen. And it's more likely you will be disappointed with your loved one's reaction than to the outing itself. Remember, your loved one has limits, and it's your responsibility to manage those limits. Again, going back to Marcia, Marcia said she would like underplan because she didn't want to overdo, and which was great because it was her job to manage those limits. All right, it may be possible that you have to cancel the outing and come up with alternative options. Again, Marcia, then y'all did screen porch outing. All right, it's all about your loved one's comfort and enjoyment. If he or she is happy and enjoying themselves, it's a lot easier for you to enjoy yourself too. Next slide. Choosing the right venue. A place's suitability is of the utmost importance to ensure a successful day out. Not only must it be suitably engaging, but it should also have all the facilities that will meet the practical needs of your loved one. If possible, pay a visit to the proposed venue in advance to identify any issues that may arise on the day of the outing. For example, is parking too far away? Is the incline too steep? Is it too popular of an attraction? Large crowds. If you can't pay a visit in person, try calling the venue. Many attractions have additional services that may be available to you that have not been advertised on their website. So, for example, arranging a quiet table in a restaurant. Restaurants will do that. They're very accommodating. They'll have a staff member to greet you. And this could be at other places, not just restaurants. They can prioritize your order in a restaurant. Let them know what's going on. They're going to get the order out quicker, which is helpful. So advise on special exhibitions or dementia-friendly days that may be of interest. One thing is like the Audubon Zoo has Sensory Sunday. It's early in the morning before people get there and there's less people. So it is, friendly. It's friendly for anybody with any kind of sensory issues. And y'all, I can't see. This thing keeps being in my way. All right, some venues offer discounts for caregivers, have rental wheelchairs, or enhance your day out with hands-on experiences that are not widely advertised. Next slide, please. Where to go? Historic buildings, meaningful places, museums and galleries. Memory cafe. All right, memory cafe. One of the things I found very interesting in, I think it was England, they actually have memory cafes, and they actually have an app on the phone that tells you where these cafes are that are Alzheimer's friendly. I downloaded the app and did the search, went to the United States and Louisiana, and in Baton Rouge, the only memory cafe that they acknowledge is Alzheimer's Services of the capital area. They acknowledged us for a memory cafe. So we must be feeding them, I don't know. But obviously, we're on the books. All right, a zoo, and obviously, again, on a slower day, morning, evening, whatever would be better. During the week is normally a less populated time. Ice cream or snowball stand. Sometimes outside eating ice cream or the snowball at a local little stand. That's really the fresh air. Again, it's helpful, and it's small, local. Favorite local shops. Some of them still like to go to their friends' shops. Local arboretum, park for an outdoor picnic, a botanical garden, a short, light nature walk, scenic car ride. And the seasons, the changing of the seasons, you can take them on the same ride, and spring looks different from fall and winter. So it's always a different scenery. And what you don't think of is a scenic car ride at night, because places look different, totally different when it's just lights. All right, and a local sports game, maybe not LSU, but maybe your local sports team, when they practice even or have a scrimmage, that's a great time to take them. It's not as packed, it's not as busy. All right, next slide, please. More places to go. Library. Our local library also offers events. They do readings, they read certain books. Sometimes they read poetry. They actually at one point had a French class that they could go and sit. If your loved one spoke French, that's really interesting for them to sit through. A lunch outing, fishing, careful, but fishing, bowling, senior centers and senior citizen clubs. We do have some here that offer different events for them, not major events, but small events and things that they might be of interest to them. Church, miniature golf, craft shows, farmers market, and beaches, if they can handle a walk on the beach. Next slide, please. So local options, I did do some research for y'all. PJ's Coffee in Gonzales, it has coffee and brunch items on the menu. And on certain days, local musicians will actually play in the place. And a lot of times I've went, and it's not very crowded. There may only be one or two other people in there while they're playing music. Zoos, again, sensory opportunity. They do offer certain times where before public is just allowed in and is more calm. Okay, Greater Baton Rouge Zoo, early mornings during the week offer smaller crowds and animal feedings. Knock Knock Museum, family outing with grandchildren, great for engagement. Burden Museum and Gardens on Essen Lane in Baton Rouge. AMC Theaters, they offer sensory-friendly films. The lights are up, they're not off. The sound is turned down. It is also on the second and fourth Saturday at AMC in BR, Baton Rouge. It's the number 16, AMC Theater. The LSU Botanical Garden. They have a Cajun Village in Lafayette that it's small and they can just walk. It's pretty friendly for terrain. I've walked through it. You might want to be with them and check out the little small steps of the little Acadian style cottages that they have there. The Cajun Village in Sorrento. Weekdays, earlier in the day, they serve beignets. They have a bunch of little Cajun shops. And if you're brave enough, you can take the little walk out there to see the alligator. Next slide, please. All right. This is, I believe, Dedrick.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
How's everyone doing? My name is Dedrick, and I'm the Respite Center coordinator in Baton Rouge and for Charlie's Place. And I wanted to speak with everyone about long distance traveling. I think last year I told the story of me and my grandpa who would go to the bar room in his area where when he moved in with us, we would go to the bar and sit at the bar, even though I wasn't old enough, and we would be able to drink and keep him in his routine. Well, now with long distance traveling, I want to tell the story. I'm not going to go too far into detail, but I'm going to tell you what I learned from the story of having to move 9 hours to Atlanta the day before Hurricane Katrina. And you know, this with someone with dementia, this had everything we love when we travel with or without dementia. We had gridlocked cars, honking horns, accidents. This trip, instead of taking 9 hours, took 3 days. And so what I want to do is give you kind of a little information of the things we learned that we thought we would be able to do, didn't, and were not able to do. Now, before I jump into that car ride, I would like to kind of talk to you about air travel, because I get a lot of questions about air travel. And so one thing I want you to understand is people who are high functioning with dementia, a lot of caregivers want to see, well, we travel a lot. We always did. We always took planes here, there, around the country. Early on, you may be able to still do that. As things wane and go later, more than likely not, because we know the airport is sometimes a frustrating place for ourselves, and it definitely would be for our loved ones. So when it comes to air travel, some tips I would give you: take the most direct flights. I know some of us we want to price check and look around, or what's cheaper. Well, we don't want to do layovers with an individual with dementia. So if we can get a direct flight, go right ahead and get a direct flight, because the last thing we really want to do is try to be laid over for 2 hours in some city waiting on the next flight. We want to control as much of the environment and be as direct as possible when it comes to air travel. Another thing is calling TSA and getting in the PreCheck program, where you don't have to stand in all of the lines that are in the airport. You can go right in to the PreCheck, swipe the little card that you've already been PreChecked, and go right on through and wait and sit in your lobby to board the plane. Now, that doesn't mean wait until the last minute to get there, but it does help you stay out of the crowds of people, the noise, the winding, the little machine they put you in now where you have to hold your hands up. So that is something that is very helpful. It's the TSA PreCheck. Also, if you can fly, and it's a lot harder to do this flying than if you were driving. If you know you have your loved one sundowns, and in the evening, they're normally show anxiety, things of that nature, you may want to try to get a morning flight. This is just about their routine in general of how they are throughout the day. Again, flying is not always the best route, but I know some people want to do it. So I just want to give you some information. Also, through TSA, if you call ahead, you get your tickets where they're scanned in on your phone today. You don't have to go to the little PreCheck and print them out unless you are putting baggage claim is what I mean, where you have to print out your tickets. You can actually get them on your phone, little quicker, little easier, little less time in line. So take advantage of that. Also calling to see if TSA, I don't know if you've ever been to the airport and they have someone in a wheelchair and they get an employee to move them right along through the process. Please make that phone call early if you want to do air travel with your loved one with dementia. All we're trying to do is stay out of the crowd, stay away from the noise, and get through the airport as quickly and as comfortably as possible. Also, if you are checking in bags, try to keep an emergency bag with you, because we all know we've had times where our luggage has come up missing. So we know we want to have medications, legal papers, doctors' names, things of that nature in that bag that carry on with you or your loved one. Because the worst thing that can happen is your bags come up missing and the things that you need are in that bag. And I know everything's an extra step, but it's just what we have to do if we want to travel. Also, an ID bracelet. And just like the cards that were talked about to let someone know you have dementia, an ID bracelet is a great and incredible thing to have for your loved one in case y'all get separated, because you definitely gonna have restroom stops, and you may let if it's your husband, may go into the restroom by themselves and may kind of get lost in the restrooms. And airport restrooms have gotten a little bigger these days, and these newer, and then they have multiple exits in and out in these newer places. So also, when you get to your area to load on the plane, try to sit towards the front, away from the crowd of people. We definitely want to stay away from that crowd and stay as comfortable as possible. Give yourself ample time when you get there. When you get to the airport, you want to give yourself ample time, unless you have things and have talked to TSA and everyone on how the process will work. You definitely want to give yourself ample time to get through the process, from baggage claim all the way through to getting to your seat, being boarded. Also, if you have the extra money, hire someone to come with you, a companion. It is always helpful for it to be 3 of you. An extra pair of hands is always helpful if you can afford it. Some can, and you want to try to do it that way, and you feel like they may be manageable, but keep in mind, an extra pair of hands is always helpful. So that is definitely one way to kind of look at it. And you're going to have to, as always, keep your expectations realistic. That's a hard thing for us, and that goes with everything we do with an individual with dementia. So always try to make sure you know your limits, know your loved one's limits. I wouldn't try to take a trip to China. So, just know your limits and operate that way. Now, another way of traveling is by train, which is loud. If that is something you and your loved one did and they're still higher functioning, you may try it. I wouldn't suggest it, but if that's the easiest way to move or the best way to do it, go ahead and give it a try. There are train cars. Again, call ahead. Try to see if you can get a space in one car with fewer people. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's different ways to travel. So a train is still an option, but it comes with a lot more packed space. Well, a lot less space. So you would have to try to get some help from the people who work at the train station. Okay, so now car travel. Car travel is a tough one. That's the biggest question we get. We always want to go visit our family an hour, 2 hours away. So if we're used to having our loved one and we just drive right across the road to the store, and we don't really, the farthest place we go is to the doctor. One thing you're going to have to start doing is physical preparation. If we're going to try to have someone in a car, an airplane as well, in a tight spot, exercise, stretching, yoga, because we've all been in the car ourselves, and you start to feel your back ache, your knee ache, things like that. So you kind of want to, even though you're not trying to get them in tip-top shape, but you need to make sure that they can feel comfortable in a confined space for a little amount of time. So also, you can practice incremental driving. So just taking a trip down the road, could be to Gonzales, could be a little further to Tanger, just to kind of stop and eat, just to get them used to being in the car for a length of time before you go. Kind of like preparing to run a marathon. You don't just wake up that day and just say, well, I'm going to run this marathon. It's going to be a bad day. You go ahead and you practice, you get up earlier and you run a little bit, you run until you feel like you're comfortable enough to make that entire race. So also in the car, when you are trying to plan your trip, make sure you plan for rest stops. Know your loved one, what they like, dislike. So if you know they love museums and you know there's a museum en route to where you're going, and it could be to go see the grandbabies. You may want to make a rest stop at the museum. It could be a car museum, history, World War II museum, anything, something that they love to kind of keep them engaged with you. One thing that Marcia did say that is important is silence. When you're in that car drive, we do love to talk. Sometimes silence is a wonderful thing, and we all know that. If we've had children, anything like that, we know silence is a very, very wonderful thing. Sometimes we definitely want to have a little conversation. We don't want to just ride in silence, but just keep in mind that there's nothing wrong with a little silence. So I kind of want to go back a little bit. I think I overlooked with driving. You don't want to be in the road. Like the trip we took to Atlanta to escape Hurricane Katrina, we were in wall-to-wall traffic. And the one thing it taught me today, and I would say to you, is make sure you leave early in the morning if you want to stay away from traffic. You don't want to leave at times where it's known to have a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of traffic. Makes the trip a lot smoother. It makes the trip, sometimes your loved one will be sleeping. So it's very, very helpful. And this is for those longer trips. This isn't for if you're going right down the road 20 minutes away. These are for longer trips. I would say try to limit trips at 4 hours max with an individual with dementia. There's only so much you can do, only so much you can talk about. Very important in that car ride, along with silence, is their favorite music. If you know you have someone who loves music, you may want to put a melody, a CD, or if you're into your MP3 players, put a little song list together for them, and y'all can sing your hearts away the entire way until you see them get a little tired, and then the little silence will come in. Definitely looking at the cars on side of the road, the cars, the houses. How much did that car cost? You think that when you see a Corvette, how much do you think they paid for that Corvette? And they'll tell you, oh, I had a Corvette back in 1970s, XYZ. That's what we want. Always, I always say that person centered always comes out. We want the story, but trying to get it as comfortably as possible for yourself and for your loved one. You will always have to stop for gas. That is always going to be something where you want to go in and get some snacks, maybe do a little stretching. Again, have that bracelet on just in case somehow you get separated. You're going to have to always be prepared for wandering. But in a car, just like anytime, it's always easy to have an extra set of hands. So if there's another adult who can travel with you, it's always wonderful. Next slide, please. Okay. So if you're staying overnight, the one thing we love is we want to stay with our loved one. We're coming to see our grandbabies. We got 3 grandbabies and we want to stay with them. We want to have a great time. Sometimes not always the best thing. Sometimes you need your space. So a hotel or an Airbnb may be a better option, more hotel. If you call hotels like the Hyatt, if you know when you want silence, you don't want anyone to come in, and they have the little thing you can hang over the door. They also have one in on there they can write for the staff, the other staff, not to knock on the door. They may call instead to see if you need towels, if you need things cleaned, something of that nature. But talking to the hotel people, the concierge at the front, they will let you know exactly what they can offer you for help for someone with dementia. The more they know, the more they can be helpful. The more they can keep staff from interrupting you, if that is what you're looking for, is to a little solitude. But it's tough because sometimes we go and we want to see family, we want to stay with family. But if there are 3 little kids running around all day, it's not the best place for peace, unless there's a wing of the house where you can go and stay by oneself. When you travel, when they get there, there will be disorientation. They will be. When you change that routine, there's going to be some where am I, what's going on? always remind them we're here with family. If that's where you're going, or we're here to meet friends, just kind of to let them know we love you, we're okay, and we're having a great time. As someone begins to go down the ladder in the disease progression, it gets a little harder. You can't go as far, and that's kind of what you have to look for. Next slide. So if there's an instance where you have to travel with family, and that happens all the time, if there are little kids, please, please try to have someone who attends to that little kid. I would say, when I say little, I'm talking about 2, 3 years old, crying, things like that. It's going to agitate your loved one. It agitates us. So just kind of, if it may need to take 2 cars to keep that agitation away, but that is just kind of something that we have to kind of adjust with when it comes to kids. If your loved one is used to wearing headphones, definitely they can bring headphones. Just like you have the kids with the headphones and iPad, if your loved one loves YouTube, or if you can put together a list on YouTube and have headphones for them that they can hear their favorite music, their favorite game shows, things like that, please, all by means, do that. I also get asked a lot of questions about people who want to travel and meet their friends from college. Most of us met our spouses and things like that in college or somewhere right after. And then we have a group of friends we like to travel with. To a point, you can still travel, but it becomes harder as your loved one keeps going down the slide of dementia. So when you travel, make sure you try to travel and there's some fun involved that your loved one can still participate in. Because I've had people, clients at Charlie's Place who they have golf buddies and then we want to go on a golf trip. But if your loved one no longer understands golf, the trip's not going to be as fun. So some trips you may have to bow out from. Sometimes you just may have to, well, we'll meet y'all. We may meet, they may stay 5 days, we may come and stay 2. And that's okay. Nothing's wrong with that. We came in, you got to see him, you got to have a great time, and then we leave because that's what's best for us, me and our loved one with dementia. Okay, next slide. And at all times, if you know your loved one and you know things aren't gonna go well, do not be afraid to abort the mission and just go home to a safe place. As we all do when we're growing up, if anything goes wrong, we want to go to mom and dad or whatever our safe space is. So keep that in mind. If we know things are going to be out of control and you could have planned for weeks, if they wake up that day and it's a really bad day, don't be afraid to abort the mission. And next slide. Yes. Any questions?
All right. Thank y'all so much. That was a wonderful presentation. We do have some questions in the chat, so I'll read those out to y'all. So let's see, we have a couple. So what is y'all's opinion? I know, Dedrick, you addressed some of these, but give us y'all's feedback. Would visiting a family member / good friend be helpful when planning an outing?
Absolutely. Sometimes if you have a great community or a great set of friends, they'll come visit you and then you can go visit them, albeit hopefully they're within an hour of you, and you come in, you have lunch together. That friendship, that community, it's always a great thing, even with someone with dementia. But going to see friends and reminiscing, that's kind of the name of the game. You want to be as comfortable and have as great as time as you have time with you and your loved one together.
Thanks. Okay, and we have some tips in the chat too. Anne shared that City Park in Baton Rouge near LSU, early mornings is usually quiet and has different walking paths. And also the Canes Dog Park may be an option if you're a dog lover as well. I love that idea. I know you talked about music a little bit, but any suggestions on music that might be good to have while traveling? And do you think that can help, to keep a person calm on the trip longer?
Music they like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever music they like, and just sometimes seeing the old kid songs that we would sing. They really enjoy that. You Are My Sunshine, one of the best.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's one of the greatest things. YouTube is one of the greatest things today because it allows you to find great mixes and greatest hits albums of favorite artists. So if you know someone loved Frank Sinatra, you can go right to YouTube and play it through your car. Not something we had when we were growing up, but it's the technology is here today. So music can be your friend. Again, monitor your volume, but music can definitely be your friend.
We just got another comment too that says we need more audio adventures for the visually impaired person with dementia as well. I do agree. Okay, can you guys tell us, we just got a question, can you guys tell us a little bit about Charlie's Place?
You're on, Deb.
Yes, Charlie's Place is a day center country club for individuals with dementia. We spend 6 hours together. We have fun together. We sing together. We dance together. We laugh together. And sometimes we get in trouble together. But we do that and we do it safely. It's person-centered. We definitely build our days around the individuals who are here. I spent an hour, we talked about Jeanneret, Louisiana this morning, threw away the entire calendar. We baked a cake and talked about Jeanneret, Louisiana. Don't know how we even got on that subject, but that's kind of what we do at Charlie's Place. It's a band of friends together. We meet each other, not knowing each other, and we end up being a group of friends.
Thank you. And just a little background on our presenters too. So Dedrick and Marsha are here in our Baton Rouge Charlie's Place location, and then Sanji is in our Gonzales location. Okay, I have a couple more questions. We have a few more minutes. So any tips for getting your loved one into a car?
Absolutely.
You're gonna have to.
Absolutely.
If they don't want to get in there, it's kind of like a toddler. You might just have to reschedule. But if you absolutely have to get in that car, give them the most positive outlook on the destination. That's or just wait, take a breather. Because normally they're pretty excited to get in the car. I don't have too many that aren't.
Well, I would definitely say I am not above flattery, getting them in the car. Oh my goodness, those leather seats are so wonderful. You should feel them. They have heated seats. I am not above bribing with candy if necessary, because everyone loves candy. But if you just need to get into the car to get somewhere, there's something going on. But most of the time, if they're not willing to get in, I kind of wouldn't force someone in. But if just need be, I would definitely be positive about where we're going, what we're doing, and make it sound like the greatest place to be, that car.
And this is where the pictures came in really well for Bill. Again, the verbiage really just confused him totally. But if he had a picture of where we were going, and if I didn't use that word go, we had better luck.
Okay, thanks, y'all. Another question we have is, how do you handle a loved one that may wander while you're in public?
Well, wandering is something we definitely, with dementia, we have to get accustomed to. I think the easiest way is like with Marsha, with pictures. I keep a picture when I was with my grandpa, I would keep a picture of my grandmother and her sisters when they were younger, and it would take them, where are my babies? And I go, oh, they're right over here. And it would get us to the car, and we could kind of get away and get to a new space, new mental mind frame for him would get us to the destination where we were trying to get. But wandering will always be an issue, and there's no right or wrong way. But well, we don't want to yank on someone, but we definitely want to usher them very nicely to the next space.
And I think if wandering really does become an issue, that might be one of those criteria for scaling back on your outings and maybe looking at some more creative home outings, because that presents danger. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, and our last question, I'd like for you guys to give us some tips on this. Any tips for caregivers that have to take a professional caregiver with them and their loved one on an outing? Dedrick, you want to start us off on that one?
Okay. So taking a professional care, again, extra pair of hands, always wonderful. I will say that the both of you can come up with a game plan on how to handle wandering, how to handle if one needs to go to the restroom and the other does not, we can stay out. If we're in a supermarket looking at little items, things of that nature. When you have that caregiver and you have the extra hands, they should be a help and not a hindrance. If they're a hindrance, you have a different issue. But if that person is helpful, a great game plan, and all game plans can fail, but a great game plan on an outing is a wonderful thing, and those extra hands are a wonderful thing to have.
Thank you. So that is all of our questions, and we are right at the 1 o'clock mark. So thank you, Marcia, Dedrick, and Sanju. It was such an awesome presentation, and thank you too to everyone that joined us here today. If you have any questions for our presenters or anything afterwards, feel free to send them to me and I will share them with the presenters afterwards. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back next month for a presentation by one of our staff members, Ann Rolling, on tips for positive communication. So thank y'all so much, and I hope to see y'all then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.